Fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest, the uh, postseason edition, I guess you would call it. I am your host tonight, Jim Delfino. It's been about a week since your Boston Red Sox were officially told to grab their participation ribbons and hit the golf course. The season's over, not with a bang, not even with a whimper, just a long, wet fart in the direction of October baseball. And now, to make sure we really soak in the pain, the team trotted out the three wise men of mediocrity for a state of the franchise press conference: Sam Kennedy, Craig Breslow, and Alex Cora, otherwise known as What in Sam Hell Kennedy, Craig Data Before Dingers Breslow, and Alex, you guys figure it out, Cora. Running this podcast after a Red Sox elimination feels like hosting a wake for a hamster. You're trying to sound respectful, but let's be honest. The little guy died because you forgot to feed him for 3 months. That's basically how Boston handled their pitching staff. Joining me tonight is Nick Face, a man who's been so mad about this team's collapse, he's been arguing with his own reflection. Seriously, he told his bathroom mirror that Jaron Duran's approach was unacceptable and gave it a one
And
star
cracked it.
and gave it a 1 star review on Yelp. Nick's still heated, folks. He called the press conference today a masterclass in gaslighting, which honestly is fair. Sam Kennedy spent 20 minutes explaining how finishing third is part of the competitive growth process. Oh, it is that we're calling it now, Sam? Because I've been calling it April optimism meets July depression. As always, let's get into it. Your Boston Red Sox finished 89 and 73, third place in the AL East, in case you've been living under a rock lately, and only 8 games better than last year. And that's an important point. Meanwhile, the Sox players are home, or maybe in Cancun, depending on what you've been reading lately, experimenting with new analytics like how to pretend to be optimistic in front of microphones. And the Yankees, who are currently doing whatever they call playing baseball, continue on in the postseason. So today's big event was the end of season reality denial summit, live from Fenway Park. Sam Kennedy opens with his usual TED talk on accountability, which is rich coming from a guy whose biggest accountability measure this year was switching the office coffee to cold brew. He said, and I quote, "We're not satisfied, but we believe in our process." Yeah, well, I believe in Santa Claus too, Sam, but I don't let him build my rotation. Then Craig Breslow takes the mic, a man who sounds like ChatGPT if it went to Yale. Breslow goes, "We felt short of our run prevention goals due to validity and underlying peripherals. Translation, the pitching sucked, and Jaron Duran forgot how to read a fly ball in October." And just when you think it couldn't get nerdier, Breslow drops another gem. "We need to build a sustainable model for organizational run efficiency." Sure thing, Craig. Maybe start by finding some everyday players that don't spontaneously combust like a Samsung Galaxy battery. Then Cora steps up, and you can tell the man's done. He's got that "I'm staying because I have a contract" energy. Cora goes, "We competed." "No, Alex, the Globetrotters compete. You guys made a rookie from Mass look like Kurt Schilling." And he said, "We need to be better fundamentally," which translated from Cora speak, meaning, "I spent 6 months watching guys forget which base to throw to, and I've emotionally checked out." Now it's time for Nick Face's word of the day.
And now it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day.
Mediocrity. That's what the three stooges at Fenway Park were sitting there talking about today. Mediocrity. Get ready for the off season of, well, we made the playoffs, we improved. We made the playoffs, we improved. Over the next God knows how long until spring training comes. You're going to hear that on repeat for as long as this offseason is. And to me, we all talked about this heading out as the season was about to wrap. Limping into the playoffs is what they did. I am fearful because they think that acceptability or being an acceptable thing was making playoffs. So they check that off that checkbox, which scares me because now you're going to go into an off season where you're going to be questioning how much they spend. how they're going to improve the team, who's getting traded, all those kind of questions where the Red Sox could just go into 2026 with what they got right now. And what that means is get ready for Tristan Casas at first base if healthy. Get ready for some Nick Sogar at second base. Get ready for Marcelo Meyer at short. And look out, Nate Eaton at third base, folks. It's coming. In outfield, you're probably going to be saying sayonara to Jaron Duran. That's under my Christmas tree. I hope that happens. I'd love it wrapped nicely so I can throw it out the window Christmas morning, being Duran. But you'll probably have Rafaela. I'm assuming they're going to keep Wilyer Abreu. I don't want that to happen because I think you can upgrade. I think there's other teams out there that I would listen to those guys with. I'm not saying trade them right away, Jim. I'm saying listen. See what team will blow you away with an offer. If somebody wants to take Rafaela off our hands and do whatever and give us the deal of the century, you do that. Same goes with Wilyer Abreu, 100%. We learned today from the press conference that there was some stuff going on with Carlos Navarez. We'll talk about that. But in terms of like untouchables, that's your Garrett Crochets. That's, I guess they're saying Navarez is an untouchable. I don't know about that. You're going to probably have Chapman as an untouchable, Garrett Whitlock, Justin Slayton likely leading out the bullpen right there. But outside of really that, I got to say, I don't have anybody else that's untouchable.
The only other guy is Roman
Anthony. Roman Anthony, absolutely, when he's healthy, 100%. I'm sorry I missed that one because he was hurt. That's why I forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd listen even to Marcelo Meyer. I'd listen on it. But even with your guys like your Peyton Tolles and everything that's there, I'd listen. Conley early too. I'd listen. Doesn't mean I want to trade them. It means I'm open for business. If someone's going to blow me out of the water here with a move that improves my team, I'd be stupid not to listen. And I don't know what Breslow will do on this. He's going into this very mysterious offseason where there's lots of questions, lots of things that need to be done. And I just think that they're going to do one of this. I'm going to roll my chair back for a second so you can get the approach. Put your feet up right on your desk and say, oh, well, we made the playoffs. It's all good. It's all acceptable now. So that was my biggest takeaway from today. A lot of this. Here is what you are doing. This is what I want you to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actions speak louder than words. I agree with you. Just to hit on a couple points you said, as far as my untouchables, my list is probably smaller. I think it's Crochet and Roman Anthony, and I think it ends there. As far as I'm concerned, everybody else, yeah, we're open for business. I mean, they're not going to move Chapman because they signed him, and they're not going to move Whitlock. I mean, we can pretty much guarantee that those things are not going to happen. But as far as availability is concerned, out of those two guys, everybody, Bayo, I don't care. Mayer, Luis Perales in the minor leagues. I mean, I have everybody available, and in fact, I feel more optimistic about having guys like Tolley and Early available, Nick, because other teams, their scouts had to go to those games. They had to watch some of the video, and they're going to say, "Hey, listen, these guys can get major league hitters out. Let's go ahead and go after them." All right, so we're going to have a little bit of a different format, Nick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff at you that was talked about on today's press conference. We'll get your take on it, and we'll move around. Not really a lightning round, but close to it. So first thing we're going to talk about, Carlos Narvaez. Narvi's getting a meniscus cleanup this week. Clubs expect straightforward recovery and full go by spring training. Spin on this is the backup catcher spot is suddenly an or scheduling update. What I mean by that is, don't just assume that he's going to be ready and we may need another catcher. So my question to you, we saw it in the summertime. He was limping. They held this really quiet. Should we make much into it? They claim it's a minor surgery. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as a minor surgery. There can be situations where surgeries go very quickly and rehab goes quickly. But my point is to you is are we going to have him for opening day?
It's all a matter of how this procedure goes. Yes, I am concerned on it. I give Navarez a lot of credit for toughing this out and being a gamer and giving the team something versus nothing. There was speculation when the Red Sox went to San Diego. That's when Ali Sanchez came out of a Houdini act and just appeared out of the blue. And you had a buddy, I believe, that was in San Diego for that series or that game and was giving you kind of the update
Matt from
on, hey,
California. Mm-hmm.
that's exactly who it was. And he was saying he was limping around. He's out there. He's warming up. I had said to you, if he was really hurt, you wouldn't see him warming up pitchers and moving around and stuff like that. But what happened here is, yes, he was hurt, but he didn't want to go on the IL. The Red Sox wanted to baby this, same with him, and monitor it and still get him in there. Was that the right decision? I'm going to have to say yes, because you would have had Connor Wong and Ali Sanchez as your catchers, and that could have very well led to not even having a playoff berth whatsoever. Navarez was that much of a difference maker behind the dish. Now, I took some criticism from some people out there that said, yes, I would like an upgraded catcher. I never put Navarez in that tweet. I did that for a reason. And the reason I did that is because Connor Wong was absolute doggy dung this entire season. I need somebody that's decent, MLB caliber, that can spare Navarez and not have as much of a workload as he did this upcoming season. You need another workhorse that's there, kind of like a 1A, 1B. It's wishful thinking, I know, but I think you need to look for an upgrade there to, number one, protect Navarez, okay? Because you need him, and you need him healthy, and you need him being productive. And then also have a really good backup. Kind of like a David Ross, to tell you the truth. That would really do well in a situation like this. A guy who's very good defensively and has a little bit of pop, particularly maybe against a left-handed pitcher. Back in the day when you had the Salty and David Ross pair, those two really balanced each other well. You know, Salty was more of a right-handed hitter that could get the job done. He did hit from the left side, but not great. You can even go back to, heck, the 97, 98, 99 days when you had Scott Hatterberg and Jason Varitek back there, where Hatterberg was kind of more of your hitter, but not as great defensively. And then Varitek, we all know the story of him. That's what I kind of do on this. I'd even settle for, even if it's a guy that's like a Doug Mirabelli, that's a specialist that can come in and maybe catch one of the pitchers that's on your staff for next season, that can develop a relationship, a trust, and can count on him every 5 days. And that could spare the wear down of what we saw from Navarez, because that was a concern. We both shared that. We knew 100% from watching that Navarez was worn down, needed a rest, but I give him a lot of credit for sticking it out, being a gamer, and helping his team in whatever way it was. Probably you agree, Jim, that probably a 75, 80% Navarez was better than a Connor Wong.
I agree with you on that. And I think that's the biggest sticking point here, is the fact that I think if Connor Wong was having a similar season like he did last year, maybe they kind of take Navarez a little slower. What really irritates me about this information that came out today on him is really the fact that when you look at the rookies on this team, the Red Sox had kid gloves on Roman Anthony. He's a rookie. Marcelo Meyer, he tweaks his wrist. He's out. They didn't screw around with him. And, obviously Campbell wasn't hitting and so forth. I just feel like, not that they did Navarez wrong, but I mean, he's another rookie too. And I think people forget that he was, because I just think, he kind of did he get the poor end of the stick? I like to also look to see when he had that injury in the summer and when his numbers started to fall off offensively, because I don't know if there's a common denominator there. where that injury sustained him from having a lackluster second half. Everybody, of course, wants to chalk it up to just being tired, but hurt is different than tired. And I'm wondering if there's something to that, along with the fact that, was he kind of like told, suck it up, but everybody else, Meyer and so forth, oh no, 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 don't breathe on it too hard. I don't know. It's something that could develop as we go along in this off season. Next point that I wanted to get to is the Red Sox defense. So they led the league in errors, but according to the three Eskimos or three Musketeers, they had an elite outfield. Brezel admitted that they led the MLB in errors, but he praised the best in baseball outfield and said they're retooling. I think on Christmas vacation, he said, on that phone call when what's his face walked in the door. He says, "Retool, I'll retool you." Um, the bottom line here is that these spins constantly go back and forth. So, what's your thoughts on this coaching issue? What do you think, Nick?
Well, just speaking of National Lampoon Christmas Vacation, one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, I think they all need to be lit up like a Christmas tree. And I think, what's Grandma? The grandma's name needs to go give them a piece of her mind after this comment that was here. It was that atrocious, this comment. This was awful and hideous this season with what we saw defensively, both in your infield and your outfield. There's way too many miscues for this to go undiagnosed organizationally. I think you have a failed and flawed program in the minors where development of any of our players coming up, I don't think that they take it seriously, number one, or there's just no sense of urgency on how to improve. I think a lot of this comes from coaching. I think the Red Sox have lost some really good minor league coaching and professionals that are up at the major league level that really took these players under their wing to develop them and to make it right. Brian Butterfield was a classic coach that was with this organization for years. And he was the one that preached great defense and worked with these guys around the clock to get them into being the best defensive player that they could be, whether that was taking extra grounders or just throwing the ball around and making sure that you're comfortable about the situations that you were in. I think as soon as Butterfield was gone from this team, I noticed a drastic difference in how our defense has been. Don't quote me on this, but I think Butterfield has been gone from the organization since John Farrell. I don't think Butterfield's been involved with Cora.
No.
So I think Alex Cora is a big time problem with this because Cora's in denial. Let's be real on this. I don't understand why he feels he has to lie about this. I would rather him come out and just have said today, you know what? We screwed up. We didn't do a good job defensively and we're going to improve it. Instead of flaunting this nonsense out to us, that made me so angry today, hearing him make excuses today and come up with this, oh, well, we have one of the best infields and the best outfields. All of those stats are flawed. No, Cora, they're not. Your team did not do well overall, looking at the big picture defensively, and it cost you multiple games this season where you could still technically be in this playoff instead of just barely sneaking in.
And
it's got to improve.
And probably getting in first place over Toronto because, that margin for error was certainly within limits of games that they blew because of their defense. Let's not forget, this team was atrocious in April. They were booting around the ball like the Bad News Bears. And that's at that point that I thought that they were a 78-win team. The thing is, does Rafaela get a gold glove, platinum glove? He's obviously in the conversation. Is Abreu get a gold glove? He's in the conversation.
Doesn't deserve it.
Well, he's in the conversation because he won one
shouldn't
last
be.
year. So what really irritates me is you're going to talk about an outfield that has 2 gold gloves, and they led the league in errors, the entire team, but yet the outfield is elite. I don't think it's elite, and it starts with Jarren Duran. Moving right along, the offense, top 10 overall, weak with runners in scoring position. Contenders out-homered us. it matters in October. So here's some of the highlights. The runners in scoring position execution versus a homer gap. The offense was top 10 overall, but poor with runners in scoring position. Breslow and company acknowledged other contenders hit more home runs, and that matters in October. So they're great at setting the table, but they're bad at eating dinner. Nick, terrible, terrible execution. We saw this a lot, especially down the stretch, with not being able to get runners in, especially even with bases loaded. So even taking that away, not getting contact, getting sacrifice flies, getting those runners in from third, moving runners over from second to third, it was hideous all season. Your thought?
The defense really bothered me this season, but the offense was on a whole nother level. The ability of not even making contact is what drove me up a wall with this team and why I truthfully didn't really enjoy a lot that this season brought. I understand that they got their one game in paradise with their playoff, but this was an infuriating season to have to sit through. It really was. If you want to dissect it a lot, and I don't want to hear people come out, oh, you're a miserable so and so. That is not the case. It's because of what we had to witness, the stupidity, the ability of not manufacturing runs by just sticking your bat out and bunting the ball to move a guy around. As a baseball guy myself, who grew up and my coach preached the small ball technique and putting the bat in play and being productive, manufacturing a run, do something useful. This team couldn't do jack shit
No, they
in
have no
terms of
fundamentals.
clutchness. We have tons of players on this roster right now who would thrive with the Rays, the Padres, the Pirates. They would thrive. Boston is not a place for players like Jaron Duran, Tristan Casas, Ceddanne Rafaela, William Abreu, just to name a few. It's too much pressure for these guys. They need to go somewhere where nobody knows their name. They can be an average Joe
The problem
and
is
just be themselves.
The problem is with guys like Jaron Duran and Ceddanne Rafael is they're trying to jack everything out of the park. That's their problem. The two of them remind me of obviously Major League, the movie, where Wesley Snipes was the leadoff hitter and he kept popping up, to catch your first pitching mound and so forth. And the manager comes out, he says, with your speed, you need to just make contact, hit the ball into the ground and run everything out. And that's really what those guys should be doing. But they need to work on that. They need to work on being able to understand the moment, getting guys to actually play to the situation of the game. So, when you have no outs and bases loaded, stop trying to jack a grand slam and then the next guy hitting into a double play and you get nothing out of that inning. It's got to change and it's got to change quickly. Next point of interest is on pitching. So the pitching plan depth. We talked about a second ace and obviously the issues with Giolito. Never enough pitching is what you hear all the time. They said it exponentially. It was asked point blank about getting a number 2 behind Crochet, and the answer was a spin move, always trying to improve. Shopping list, milk, eggs, and one nasty starter, Nick.
Well, I think what we found out from this playoff here is that Brian Bayo isn't even a number 3 guy.
No.
Brian Bayo is your 4, or if he's your 5, that means your rotation's really good. Mm-hmm. I would take him at that. But from what I've seen now, it's been 4 seasons now of Bayo. I believe it's been 4. It has been 4. I've seen enough of a sample size.
We know what he is. We know what he is.
I want to move on. I want to move on. He's a poor man's Eduardo Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. I'd rather Erod back.
Yeah, at least he was left-handed.
Exactly. That's what I see on that. Now, Giolito, I got to give him a little bit of credit here. I don't want to get too harsh on it because here's a guy that was out. He had his injury with his arm. He came back, and he exceeded those expectations there. The problem is he just couldn't get right down the stretch. That last month of the season was just brutal. Yeah. Brutal. And he just broke down. He couldn't get any length. He couldn't get any control. A lot of walks all over the place. I don't know if I want to bring him back either, Jim. I don't. I think you have other options out there, and I'd rather spend the money elsewhere.
I'd rather
I
spend.
appreciate I appreciate what he gave us, but I think there's other fish in the sea.
I'd rather spend the money of the prospect capital, and again,
Yep.
that's the reason why I'm still open to moving guys like Connolly early, Tolley, Bayo, really any of the Dobbins. I know that might be tough because he's hurt. Dick Fitz, I don't
Fits.
know, might be tough because he's hurt. But the one thing you have to look at, everybody's clamoring about we've got all this pitching depth. And again, let's just go over the usual suspects: Connolly early, Tolley, Luis Perales, Dick Fitz, Hunter Dobbins. I don't know who else I'm leading out, but that's just
Who we got there for the Giants?
okay.
Kyle Harrison.
Kyle Harrison.
You could put
That
his name in there.
okay. So that's 6 pitchers. My concern is I don't want them looking and saying we've got 6 pitchers for 3 slots. You've got Crochet and Bayo, and we need 3 more out of these 6. My concern here, Nick, is that each one of these guys is going to be no better than the other. You're going to have 6.
Exactly.
You're going to have 6 number 5 starters, and that's a concern for me. And I would much rather say, look, I got 6 guys here. Let me trade 2 in one deal, or 3 in one deal, or 1 in one deal with a bat. I don't care what it is, but as far as I'm concerned, every one of these guys should be talked about in a potential for a trade, because I don't want a rotation next year being Crochet, Bayo, and 3 more of these 6. So that'll be an
You're
interesting.
doing a disservice. You're doing a disservice to the guy that you just extended and believe in and want him here because he's your ace, and that's Garrett Crochet. If
Correct.
you do not go out there and give that number 2 starter, you're not going to be a winning team.
No.
Let's take a dive back. 2004, you had Pedro Schilling. 2007, you had Beckett, Schilling, and Dice K, you could even say, because he was in there. 2013, that was Lester and Lackey. And then 2018, you had Chris Sale and David Price.
Right.
You see where I'm going with this? Jim, you said this as well. You have to have a number 2 pair to supplement your 1. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
All 4 championship series, all 4 championships in those teams, they always had a 1 and a 2. They had one.
Look at those rotations from those seasons. Just look at them. You had floated in your Derek Lowe's, your Tim Wakefields, your Dice Gays. You had why can't I think of his name?
Clay Buchholz.
Clay Buchholz. Thank you. That was on the tip of my tongue.
It was 13-1 on
you had those options.
In 2013, I think it was 13-1. And then at the end there, Charrington got Jake Peavy. Which is a bona fide pro. He was a former Cy Young Award winner for San Diego, and you placed him as your number 5 guy. That's what you want to do. You want to get a healthy 160, 180 inning guy. He doesn't have to be a former Cy Young, but a guy of that ilk that's going out there every 5 days to pitch, not Dustin May, not
what you need?
Not James Paxton, not Sandoval, and so forth.
You know who you need? And I'm so sorry that I forgot his name. You need Nate Eovaldi, a type like that.
Yeah, you do.
You needed him, and you completely let that one just go out to the pasture. Would have been great. I understand he gets hurt maybe once in a season, but the guy's a bulldog. He pitched here. He dominated here. And you said, all set. Let him go to Texas. Let him go there. You could use that so badly on your team right now.
Moving along. First base and DH supposedly are up in the air. Tristan Casas is rehabbing well, whatever the hell that means, but there's no timeline. And that was a key distinction in that discussion. So here we go. They won't name a first baseman. This was Breslow's quote. It would be silly of them to name a first baseman on October 6th. That's what he said. That clearly says to me, Nick, when you want to say that, I mean, I remember Dave Dombrowski saying Chris Sale is our opening day starter next year. He said that in 2017, I believe it was. And if you're going to say to me that, well, he's doing good, but I'm not going to name a first baseman on October 6th, that means we're open for business for a first baseman. A little bit more on that. Full recovery is anticipated, but no timeline, and the DH usage remains flexible. Let me tell you what I want to do, and then I'll see what you think. I want Casas traded. I don't care if it's for a bag of balls. Get me Pete Alonso or get me Kyle Schwarber. Let's start there. Your thoughts?
Sign me up. 1,000%. One of the worst moves that they also made recently was letting Schwarber walk. You should have ponied up and given it to him. And don't give me the excuse, what is he going to play? You figure it out for a guy that has that pop. You figure it out. And boy, could that team have used that
50
big time.
home runs average every year.
I know he comes with strikeouts and a low average. I get that. But the intangibles of him on what he meant to the city of Boston when he was here in 2021, the pop, the fire, all of it. He was a fan favorite that fans would have loved to be able to go to the ballpark and go and see. Just to see a Schwarber Schwat out of here.
Yep. Kyle
I'd love
from
it.
Waltham.
Now, Pete Alonso's an interesting name. I kind of believe it when I see it, when he says I'm testing free agency and I'm not going back to the Mets. It just feels like that's a de facto, that he just goes back to the Mets. He just lands there every time the situation pops up. Is that going to be the case again this offseason? I would love to see it because I think his bat fits Fenway perfectly.
I do too.
I can see him tattooing that ball over that monster and being a force in the lineup. In a way, kind of a force like you had back when you had JD Martinez, a solid right-handed bat that had pop, that could get it done, and it's just a professional pro. That would be a massive upgrade, and much like with you with this whole Casas thing, if Casas is my first baseman on opening day, I'm going to rip my eyeballs out of my socket.
Yeah. I mean, there has to come to a point where they realize that show is over. And I'm sorry, it just is. You know what? Let's be wrong. Go hit 40 home runs for Seattle or Houston or wherever you want to go. I just don't want to deal with him anymore. I'm tired of the drama, and I don't want to risk another injury because when this guy goes down, he goes down hard. He's basically made of glass. And it's just going to be that way moving forward. If anybody thinks that he's going to improve and get healthier as he gets older, then I don't know what the hell you're watching because it's just not going to happen. You got to move on. You got to get a guy out there that you think is. And here's the thing, too. Whether you go with Schwarber or you go with Alonso, they really fit the Red Sox pedigree for guys that they could get under contract for short years. Because I think either one of those guys isn't going to be out there commanding a 6-7 year deal, Nick. They're going to probably be 3-4 years, something in that neighborhood. I know Alonso's 30, maybe a 5-year deal, but I think they can go maximum of 4 or 5 and then maybe just make sure that AAV is high enough. But, you put Alonso and 35 home runs back into this lineup and you basically replace Devers' home run production with him, you're looking pretty good. And you'll be able to get Alonso for a lot less than what was owed on Devers' contract.
The other point I also want to make sure we mention before this segment rolls, I don't want Nate Lowe anymore. I'm all set with that.
No.
He needs to go. Non-tender him. Say you later.
He's a free agent.
And then I don't want him back.
No.
Thank you, but you're all set. And if you go into the season with Romy Gonzalez as your first baseman,
no.
That's not good.
I like him as a backup, but that's just it. Okay.
He's a utility guy that can play. He can move around. He can play first, second, whatever.
Nick, they should be playing 30% of the time.
Exactly.
That's 2 games a week. Put him at first one day, second another, and that's it. That's how it should roll. Next topic I want to talk about is Bregman and Trevor Story. Obviously, these decisions are pending. Breslow says that the talks, I'll read you the script here, kept internal. The club won't disclose negotiations. There's a surprise. Bregman's impact and fit is lauded. He said that both his and Trevor's options are their decisions and they're not reading tea leaves yet. Well, I don't know about Bigelow, but I'll tell you about my tea leaves. I don't care if either one of them comes back, Nick. I really don't. Providing you're going to go ahead and spend the money elsewhere and put a competent impact bat and defensive player. In other words, you go out and get Schwarber and Alonso in this offseason. I don't care about Trevor Story or Bregman. Put Marcelo Mayer out there and put someone at third. I'll be happy with that. Give me elite defense at shortstop. I'll get my offense elsewhere.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is that let's start with Alex Bregman. I think the Red Sox are expecting that to not be a reunion. I think that they're thinking this is a one and done. I think that because Scott Boras is his agent, and we all know what Boras does with his players, he oversells. Kudos to him, of course. But I don't think the Red Sox are going to fall for it again. He wasn't worth $40 million this season at all. And I don't want to invest in a player of $40 million for 4 years or whatever it's going to be for another contract. He got hurt, and after he got hurt, he disappeared. He vanished. Yeah. He wasn't the same player. And I think this is exactly the reason why Houston said they're all set.
Mm-hmm. He's 31 years old. He's 31 years old now. So, I mean, I don't know what you're going to expect. And I'm talking to baseball Twitter for this, Red Sox Twitter. I don't know what you're going to expect out of him moving forward. If you think he's going to be a 30, 40 home run guy, then fine, go ahead, let him go, spend that money, $40 million a season, spend it on Alonso, spend it on Schwarber. You know what? I've got more guaranteed pop there. You got to replace Devers' pop. You can't go into this season. Look, if Roman Anthony becomes a 30 home run guy, then fine. Pair him up with Alonso, pair him up with Schwarber, but you need to get another guy like that in this lineup.
With Trevor Story, I thank him for what he did for this season. Nobody expected anything of the caliber that he was going to be with this team. The durability, the bat, being a leader throughout the entire season, coming through in clutch situations. I appreciate all of that. But if Trevor Story does end up opting out and testing free agency, good luck to him.
Yeah.
I don't see him putting up those numbers again. I just don't.
You know what, Nick? Maybe it's a blessing that he had the season he did, because quite frankly, if he had a shitty season or was hurt, he wasn't opting out. So maybe this will be a blessing. It'll take $25 million off their the money that they're paying off the books, right? So you'll have Bregman's 40, which they actually, the way the contract works, it's 20. There's another 20 that's deferred, but you're talking $45 million off of next season. You mean to tell me
you could use elsewhere to improve your team?
You mean to tell me you can't go get Schwarber, Alonso, and trade for Joe Ryan? Start there? I think you can.
I got to say, though, this is the biggest thing that worries me going into this offseason, because we already know what they did with Devers. They got rid of that contract and freed that money up, made John Henry's season. If he can now rid himself of Bregman, Story, and just say, you know what, the kids overexceeded expectations, it's time to just play them, that's what we're going to do. That is what scares me half to death. Well, because they got to that one game and they're going to say, well, we saw what the money did and everything. Now we're just going to let the kids play and let them do and let it all go. I could absolutely see Henry doing this. I could see it.
Well, you know what? Here's that. That's a big problem, because they can't go 2021 to 2022 again. They have to go 2016 to 2017. That's what they need to do.
No, John Henry doesn't care. Yes, he's shown up at a few games this season. Yippee. He got his ice cream and took some licks with Linda. But the biggest thing is John Henry does not like being attached to large contracts and big money deals. He
Right.
likes the short-term play.
Mm-hmm. And I think you
That's
can
why
get
I'm
that.
even saying I don't think that he's going to do that with Schwarber. I'm thinking on John Henry's terms, not my terms. I'm
No, I
thinking
know.
on his terms. He's going to stick a finger at Pete Alonso and say, "Up, see you later. Let the Mets overpay for you." He wants to have the last laugh. He wants to prove people wrong in baseball, and he wants this Moneyball approach.
Yeah.
And that is what infuriates myself and so many others, because he cheapens out on the product, because he's already got his championships. Now this is just, let me put my feet up. I'm just going to cash it in. Whatever I make is gravy. That is what scares the crap out of me.
The only other option, and I don't know what's available out there either via trade. I'm not really sure free agent market, but let's talk to it more via the trade. Obviously, the Red Sox and John Henry made a commitment to Garrett Crochet, $170 million for a 25-year-old player. They made $150 million contract offer. Yeah, I know, to Roman Anthony, 21 years of age. So they seem almost like they don't have a problem giving high dollar value contracts to guys in their early and mid 20s. It's the 30s and beyond, which again is going to negate, to your point, the Alonso and Schwarber situation. But what I
even Bregman
Bregman's not a power hitter
and
anymore.
Story.
That's
No.
the bottom line. When I say power hitter, I'm talking to a guy that's going to consistently hit me 30 plus every year. So when I look at that, the only thing I can think of is if there's a possible trade scenario somewhere. And I'm not talking about Fernando Tatis. I think it's a pipe dream. I don't know if San Diego's going that route or not. But my thing is that I don't think there's a free agent like that. So you're going to have to look for a trade. But they've got a lot of guys that they can work on that, which leads me to my next thing, the outfield logjam. What we said here is we've got 4 outfielders for 3 spots. Abreu versus left-handed pitching and Yoshida usage. The thing of it is front office and Alex Cora say they can manage 4 for 3. They want Abreu to grow versus left-handed pitching. Yoshida can still play some outfield and had big at-bats in September and obviously the postseason. This is a musical chairs type of approach. Look, you have to assume that Roman Anthony is going to be a lock either in left field or right field. If Rafael is going to continue to be your center fielder, and let's just assume for a minute that that's the case, you need to move either one of Jarren Duran and Abreu or both. There's no other solution there.
I want both of them out. I don't get the hype on Wilyer Abreu besides the long ball. The guy can't stay healthy and he can't hit left-handed pitching. That is a one-dimensional player. I get the glove is Gold Glove. He won it last year and everything. But I need somebody that's going to be occupado in the outfield and not have to worry about this platoon nonsense. I get it. You have Ref Snyder and you have – who knows if you're going to have Ref Snyder next year? He's another year older. He may want to retire. He might want to be done. I don't want anybody to have to spell these guys because they can't hit lefties. I don't want that. I also want Duran out. You know how I feel on that. Mm-hmm. Give me something else that's out there that I can at least enjoy a season with without seeing the same song and dance of those two. They're like frickin' frack.
Yeah.
Now Yoshida is an interesting point. If you asked me a month ago, I would have said, well, Japan's in need of players. Send them there. I have to say right now, he's probably man number 3, I'd say, to ship out over Wilyer or Duran. I think they're going to go into next season with Yoshida as their full-time DH.
Yeah, that scares me because there's not enough power from him in that position, Nick. There's not enough power.
There's not.
And what worries me too is that you've got a guy that's pretty much one-dimensional. I don't want to hear Alex Cora saying that he can play some outfield. He had 2 or 3 games in the outfield all season.
Yep.
don't
He
give me
played
that.
one game against the Nationals.
Don't give
That
me
was
that.
in left field. It was an
Yeah,
adventure.
don't give me that spin move. They can't do that. And I think if anything, they have some level of positivity from Yoshida having a decent second half of September. Maybe they can parlay that into a trade. I don't know. Let's see here. Next thing that I want to mention was the farm system. It was told today that after dealing prospects for Crochet, Breslow says the farm system is healthy enough to do more with lots of young talent already contributing in the Major League Baseball. We kind of touched on this just a little bit earlier today with our thoughts of, Early and Paralysis and some other guys being available. I still think you got to go out, and if you don't make a trade for a bat, you got to make a trade for a number two starter. So I won't go into that too much longer. Coaching staff. This is another one that was obviously brought up. We've talked about this at nauseum. And here's what was said: no coaching announcements were made or will be made anytime soon. They were praised for their work and their relationships under adversity. Look, if you're not going to move Kyle Hudson off third, why not? This was brought up on Maz the other day. How about swapping him with Flores and make Flores the third base coach?
Anything. I don't care if they just go to no. I just something. Dale Swam's a name. There's somebody that used to be a third base coach. I'll take something over nothing. Carlos Fabulous, get him back here. Get him back to Boston. That would be great because at least he had some infield help as well from that. I can't go into my season next season with Kyle Hudson. I also can't go into a season with Pete Fatsi either. And they're keeping that jackass still too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
launch angle this and launch angle that. It's status quo, Jim. It's coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. So that's a development that we'll obviously, we'll see how that plays out. Last topic that I wanted to talk about today, and sorry for the sizes of these things; they're a little bit too large here, but money and the window. Kennedy and Breslow said urgency continues. Ownership will spend to contend, and the window of contention is upon us. We just don't have any glass for that window, Nick. The window's open, but we just don't have the glass, like I said. Financial flexibility is improved since the Raffy move, but they stress disciplined decisions. To me, it's a little bit of a spin. The wallet's open, but for who?
It's going to be a same song and dance. I still think Henry's going to try and cut costs and make it as financially stable as he can for himself.
Mm-hmm.
We already saw what happened with Devers. I'm not falling for it. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, I'm not having it happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Actions speak louder than words. The actions that we see are that John Henry spends, and then it's on a short-term deal now. And then if he does splurge on a Devers, he tries to take it away and have the Dodgers bail him out and give him all the money back. That's how he is right now. He doesn't care. He cares more about Liverpool and all that investment that's going on. This is just a write-off. It's a let's go out to dinner, Linda. Let's use the Fenway card tonight. That sort of thing. That's what it is. I don't mean to be harsh on it, but this is the reality here.
Yeah,
I don't see them spending, and it's painful to hear it, but I have to go with that approach for myself because this is what we see.
Well, hopefully it's not going to be the case because, I mean, you got guys like Crochet that are signed here for a long term. You got Roman
Which
Anthony
is a bargain.
Which
is a bargain.
But the bottom line here is that they've got to, I mean, at least him, he's got to be convinced that they're going to go ahead and spend and be a contender each and every year, because otherwise he's going to say, what the hell did I do here? So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank Nick for being here with me tonight. Also too, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter at redsoxdigest.com, I just released my our final report card for the infield. We did a midterm for the infield, the outfield, and the pitching staff as a whole. I did the infield already, so that article is up and able to be viewed. I think the outfield will come later this week, and then I'll do the pitching staff probably next week. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and I'll have the links on Twitter as well. And then tomorrow will be the link for this podcast episode on Spotify and Apple tomorrow, probably late morning. With that being said, Nick, any final thoughts for tonight?
Go Blue Jays.
Yeah, that's probably the
Rooting hard for them.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, let me ask you a question. How were they able to get 2 byes this year in the playoffs?
The Blue Jays?
Yeah. Did you notice
Oh,
that?
because they had the better record, Jim, believe it or not.
No. I'm wondering how they got 2 byes.
Haha, funny. 2 byes. That's right. 2 byes.
With that being said, I'm going to say bye to everybody right now.
I'm going to I'm going to bed because I'm tired.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll